Most certainly.
That is our Twitter topic today. Send in your responses using the hashtag BYUSN. Joining us now, our second in-studio guest of the day is Zach Knowlton, statistician consultant. I think that's what I should refer to you as.
Works.
Numbers magician? How about that
I like
one?
that. I like that.
For BYU football, predicting player performance for BYU since 2014. Okay, so Zach, that said, what's your story? How did you get going with BYU football using numbers?
That's a good question. So I just got my master's degree here at BYU in stats. And
Congratulations.
thank you very much. Finally, right? And so I'd been working with the golf team, doing some stuff. Not as passionate about golf. Always loved football. We have a good sports statistics group going in the stats department. So send a tweet out to the director of football operations. Hey, we can help you here in the stats department. Let us know. We'll be available. They got back to us. We set up a meeting with Bronco, and then it just kind of tumbleweeded from there. And now we're going with Coach Satake, which is great. And it's been really, really fun to work on.
It's one thing to have the idea and to be able to put the numbers together and to have the idea, you know what, this would be great for the football team. But for them to embrace it and say, yeah, we'd like – what was that like?
Oh, man, that feeling when I saw that tweet, I was just like, yes.
Yeah, here we go.
Finally,
We're in.
finally. Living the dream, finally. It was really cool. And just as a fan, to be able to go in there and meet and have good discussion about how we could actually help the team, I think that was really special for me, at least.
How is it that you help BYU football specifically?
Yeah, so we do a lot of different things for them. This last year, what we did was some player performance stuff. So we tried to help the team identify which players are having the most impact on the game. So my advisor, Dr. Fellingham, and another professor, Dr. Reese, they worked with the Eagles in 2006 doing some similar stuff. So we talked with the coaches, hey, we can do this type of thing for you, relate player production to points, and they really liked it. So we went forward, ran with it, and that turned into my thesis, which is great. Get paid to do what I love and get a degree to do what I love. So research and the degree. So it worked out really good.
So for those who have seen the movie Moneyball, and if you haven't, please do because it's awesome. Is that essentially what you're helping the football team with? Similarly, with you mentioned, player performance and putting, numbers attached to that. Is that essentially what you're doing?
Yeah, similar. I think that there's a slight misconception out there, right? There's that big scene in Moneyball where there's all the scouts and the Jonah Hill character and Billy Bean, and really it's like stats versus scouts, right? And what we do is more provide another resource for the coaches, right? They know what they're doing, but if they have another resource that can quantify some of that information, we want to provide that resource. So we feel like that's kind of what we're bringing to the team to help them kind of really validate some of their things, as well as maybe find some things they didn't notice before.
Listen, Billy Bean of the Oakland Athletics, he got Brad Pitt to play him in a Hollywood blockbuster. So naturally, I'm assuming you've had discussions with important people about who would play you.
Yes, of course.
In that BYU football movie. So who would it be?
It's got to be Jack Black. I mean, how can you not say Jack Black, right? He's great. He's funny. He can play a nerdy character, right? Jonah Hill kind of plays that nerdy character in Moneyball. It's got to be Jack Black.
Now, is that you or is that your wife talking? Because you said that your wife had come up with this, because this is a question I guess you get a lot.
My wife thinks of it for some reason.
So is that who your wife thought it was?
She agreed with me. Jack Black, I love him. So Nacho Libre immediately tied it to that.
The nitty-gritty.
Yes, the nitty-gritty, the nucleus.
Third mention on the show today. I love it.
What are your meetings like right now with Kalani Sitake? Like, where does it begin? What's the conversation like?
So the first time we met with him, he was basically like, okay, what have you done in the past? Kind of explain some of those things. And we helped him kind of understand where we were. We gave him a full season report, so a game-by-game report and a full season summary. And it was really cool. He loved that report. He was just looking through it. He's like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. I really like that. And so subsequent meetings, we've talked about how we can kind of move it a little further. He wants to move it towards scouting, as well as kind of the self-scout, self-evaluation. So he's really, really open to whatever we can do to help, but he really wants it to be helpful. So we're really trying to identify what is most going to help the team this year and that he can actually find value in.
One of the things that you do with this information is you can project win-loss records. So that begs the question, not to put you on the spot, But what kind of season are we going to be seeing for BYU football in 2016?
Tread lightly, Zach.
I
Tread
know.
lightly.
I don't want to get in any trouble up here. I'll just say that there's not a lot of data on Coach Satake BYU football team, right? So maybe I won't get into that. But I do think that we're going to have a good season. Obviously, a hard schedule. So I mean, going in, we can't expect undefeated, of course. And I think anything above 500, I'll be pretty happy with. But I expect us to be pretty good. But that's mostly from a fan.
Okay, put on those blue goggles and tell me what you're seeing now. Yeah, what are you seeing now, Zach?
Oh, does that undefeated season look possible? It might.
It's
actually.
amazing how those glasses work,
Wow.
isn't it?
Okay, those are the extra large 4K blue goggles. New technology.
Can I get some of these?
Yeah, we'll look into that. Zach Knowlton, statistician, consultant, numbers magician for BYU football, and a recent graduate of statistics with a master's degree, is joining us now. How he is helping BYU football. ESPN's Football Power Index, another big-time numbers database, has BYU winning an average of 6.4 games this year. Would you agree or disagree with that number? Would you go higher or lower than that number?
Is this with the goggles?
Take the
or-
goggles
Yeah,
off.
take the
Okay.
goggles
Take the
off.
goggles
here.
off.
Yes.
Back to numbers magician
Yes,
mode.
yes.
Okay. So I know one of the guys that actually helps with those projections, and one of the things that I think is really strong in those is strength of schedule. Right, we have a really, really hard schedule, and so I think that brings us down from what we possibly could do. So I would definitely say over, but I kind of see how there's not a lot of information out there about how we can do with the schedule and the team that we have.
Let's
right
play
now.
the hypothetical game. If Taysom Hill is 100% healthy and Jamal Williams is 100%, does this change the number at all?
It's got to, right?
You would think.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine they're using data from last season where Taysom isn't in there besides the Nebraska game.
Not
and
that
he's
Tanner
not even
Mangum
100.
is,
Yeah, he's
just some
great.
guy off the street.
Yeah,
The freshman of the
very
year,
true.
man.
Yeah, so I mean, it's got to go up, and I think any BYU fan would believe that. But also, I think any person who's watched Taysom play would believe that as well.
What do the analytics say on which opponent should be the toughest matchup this season?
That's tough. I think that one of the ones that stands out is Michigan State. Obviously, they were in the playoff last year, so that's one that immediately stands out. Utah is just a big game always, but I think Michigan State, with what they have coming back, is probably our toughest opponent this upcoming season.
Zach, this is intriguing stuff. So when you put together your statistics and you can finagle some really good news, like you call it the good news category,
Yeah.
let's get those together.
Okay.
Bring you back on, put the blue goggles on, and you can give us the
I like
good news
that. Okay.
from just only the good things, man.
Okay.
We don't want to hear any of the bad
No
stuff.
negativity.
No.
All blue goggles.
Yes, only information wearing these. That's all
I can
we
do
want.
that. I can do that.
Really cool, and I'm sure that BYU Sports Nation would like me to offer, a thanks for what you're doing to help BYU athletics. Really cool stuff.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Zach Knowlton with us. Up next on BYU Sports Nation, the Big Three. Who deserves the title? But first, Stephen